March 28th, 1882. Jane, a cook at the Tichborne Hotel in Napanee, is hard at work preparing meals for the beloved guest. However, as she works, Jane becomes nervous. Maggie Howie, a fellow employee and close friend, had not returned yet from milking the cow. It was unusual for the hard-working and cheery Maggie to take so long. So she made her way towards the barn. But before Jane could enter, a man stopped her. He informed her that he needed to speak to Maggie and it wouldn't be long. The man was thin and donned a friendly smile. Jane knew who he was and thought nothing of it. The cook then returned to her post and continued to work. However, a good amount of time had passed, and Maggie still had not returned. So a worried Jane once again made her way towards the barn. When she entered, her blood ran cold. Lying on the floor of the barn was a blood-soaked Maggie. To the left of her was an axe. Jane ran over to her friend, desperate to keep her alive. But unfortunately it was too late, and the infamous axe murderer of Napanee began. Hello, my name is Joseph Palmer, and today I wanted to dive into the gruesome and tragic murder of Maggie Howie. This murder is infamous as it is widely considered to be the first ever murder to take place in Napanee, Ontario. Now, today I will be discussing how the murder took place and the events leading up to it. So if this video may be a bit too gruesome for you, I completely understand, and have more videos on my channel that I hope you will enjoy. Now, without further ado, let's dive into the brutal murder of Maggie Howie. Margaret Howie was born on February 12, 1865 in Ernestown. Reports say when she was little, Maggie was extremely cheerful, singing and humming everywhere she went. From all accounts, Maggie had a fairly normal 19th century life. And like most people of the 1800s, Maggie got a job as a teen at the Tichborne Hotel as a kitchen maid. She was responsible for delivering food to customers, cleaning and washing dishes, help preparing food, and even milking the hotel's red and white cow. While milking one day, Maggie met an attractive 23-year-old man named Michael Lee. He was charming and friendly. Soon the two began to see each other, getting closer and closer by the day. They were so close that Michael offered the kitchen maid a ring of betrothal. She of course accepted, and the two began to prepare for their future together. Unfortunately, the joyful times did not last. Michael began to change, becoming violent and verbally abusive. Realizing he was not the man she thought he was, and with the help of her family, Maggie decided to end the relationship and give Michael his ring back. He did not take this news well, and refused to take the ring. From then on, Michael Lee stalked and harassed Maggie, doing whatever he could to force her to take him back. Finally, at her wit's end, Maggie went to her sister Agnes for help. With her support, the two women went to Michael to return the ring. He once again refused, but this time Maggie removed the ring from her finger and threw it at him. Lee was furious, and reports say the man went to a local bar and poured himself a drink. Witnesses at the bar believed they saw an axe or something similar under his coat. The next day, Michael waited for Maggie to enter the barn to milk the cow. When he made his way to confront her, He was interrupted by Jane Shaw, the head cook. Lee sent her back to the house, and once alone he entered the barn. Michael tried one last time to convince her to take him back, but when she refused, he struck Maggie, splitting her head with the axe. Michael then ran away, leaving the axe behind. Once Jane discovered Maggie's lifeless body, she ran and told the hotel staff. An alarm was raised and 50 men searched for the murderer. Witnesses said they had seen a man cross the rail viaduct, headed south, about 5 miles out of town. He was spotted, and several shots were fired at him before he crashed into the brush, and was found on his knees bashing his head on a large jagged rock. His attempt of suicide was unsuccessful. News of the capture of Lee created a mob of spectators on Center Street. An infuriated crowd met him, and shouts of "string him up" and "shoot him" echoed. Chief of Police James Allen was forced to baton some of the hooting mob, telling them that the prisoner was in the hands of the law. The prisoner, his face smeared with blood of his self-inflicted wounds, was dragged to the lockup. A guard appointed to him made sure he did not make any more attempts at his own life. Michael Lee was sentenced to hang, but later was found to be insane. His sentence was commuted to life in prison. He died at the Kingston Penitentiary in 1901, at the age of 44. News of the murder spread across both Canada and the US, with multiple outlets honing in on the star-crossed lovers angle. A few of the headlines that are pretty interesting and give us a glimpse into the mindset of the crime. A few of my favorite are: a terrible murder of a young woman by a reject of lover named Lee is reported from Napanee, Ontario. Her head was split open with an axe while she was milking. Sherbrooke Weekly Examiner, March 31st, 1882. Killed while milking a cow, Napanee, Ontario, March 28th. A girl named Maggie Howie, while milking a cow in the stables of the Tichborne House here this morning, had her head split open with an axe, and instantly killed by a man named Michael Lee. He was arrested while endeavoring to escape along the railway track to Kingston. He made no resistance, but tried to commit suicide by dashing his head against large stones on the roadside. Maryland Cumberland Daily Times, March 29th, 1882. Napanee was, and still is, a very, very small town, and the fact that this case spread across North America speaks to the brutality of the crime. Maggie's body was laid to rest at the Cataraqui Cemetery, where it still can be found to this day. Maggie Howie was a 23-year-old woman who had her whole life ahead of her. However, her life was cut short by the man she once loved. And although the case is over a century old, I hope we can remember her as the beautiful and cheerful woman she was.
I'm an Irishman by birth, my name is Michael Lee. I fell in love with a pretty girl, that was my destiny. I fell in love with a pretty girl, Maggie Howie was her name. It's true that I did murder her, my head I'll hang in shame. was a kitchen maid at the Tichborne Hotel. She resided in Napanee, where she was known quite well. Night and day both passed away in my love's company. Her parents interfering now, she would not marry me. Early on one Tuesday morn, my love along did stray. I overtook my darling, and to her I did say, dearest dear, I'll be severe and take away your life, unless you say you'll marry me and be my wedded wife. She wrung her hands in anger, and she wept most bitterly. Michael, please have mercy, you cannot marry me. But I was deaf to all her cry, and no mercy I did show. And in a fit of jealous rage, I dealt that fatal blow. Maggie fell dead at my feet, it was a mortal wound, and over her fair bosom the blood came pouring down. I ran away into the woods, my sorrow to prevail, but I was captured, bound and dragged to the county jail. So now I am a prisoner in the town of Napanee. It's here I'll stand on trial, and the judge will sentence me. For I know that I'm guilty, and I do deserve to die, for the murder of my own true love upon the gallows.